Round 2, video 2, really trying to make this more of a habit so I can do this weekly to share a bit more. But today's video is going to be about myself mainly, so I'm going to be sharing my story and kind of how I got to where I am now and why I do the work that I currently do. I'd say my life in general has been pretty good. You know, it's been filled with joyous moments, lots of laughter, family, friends. I've always been surrounded by very, very good people, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But in terms of myself, you could say that there's always been like this hum of discontentment. You know, I used to think it was ungratefulness, but it was more now what I'm seeing is just that it wasn't truly me. I wasn't doing or achieving some sort of purpose. I was just kind of here, existing. There's always been a lack, a feeling of lack, regardless of all of the good times that I've had throughout my life and, you know, all the times that I've shared with people as well. I never really gripped life with two hands. If life was a car, you know, I was sitting in the car and just letting it lead me where I went. I had my foot on the pedal, just about. I wasn't going full throttle. If anything, my other foot was covering the brake, ready to stop at any form of resistance or danger in front of me. I definitely wasn't living life on the edge. It was very, very safe, very content, very chilled. And, you know, inherently there's nothing wrong with that. But because of this feeling of lack, this discontentment, it wasn't enough to kind of like overtake and be like, right, yeah, something needs to change immediately, or, you know, I can't go on living like this. No, not at all. I was very, very grateful. In fact, there's a different type of danger in this sort of predicament, because it's just like life is good enough, but it's not the best it can be, you know. For you'll have that feeling if you know what I'm talking about. From the outside looking in, it looked like I was very successful on paper. Like I had my head down, I knew exactly where I wanted to go, and I knew exactly what I needed to do to go and succeed in, you know, to go and do it. But truth be told, on the inside, I was struggling. It was a silent struggle. You know, I created this immeasurable pressure within myself. You know, I had all of these expectations on me. Anyone that kind of looked from the outside would be like, oh, Gabriel's got it all covered. You know, he's got his head down. He's so intelligent, he's smart. Basically just look at him, go like, this man has got an incredible future ahead of him. You know, I really appreciate these words every time they're said to me. But each time that they're said, it places an extra little bit of pressure on me. Or rather, I'd place a little bit extra pressure on myself to be like, okay, I got some stuff to live up to here. As I'm getting older as well, it's just like, okay, cool, time is also ticking. Time is running out, like nothing's really shifted. I'm still doing what I was doing when I was 16, 18, whatever the age was. Really and truly, I know full well nothing's really changed. And this is where the confusion starts coming into place, because it's like, right, what am I actually doing? So at the time, it was like I was doing everything right, but I didn't know why I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. Or rather, I didn't feel like I was getting the results that I wanted. It all felt very lacking. You know, it felt like it wasn't worthwhile, like I should just stop. Like if I'm doing all of this work and I'm not even getting what I want, then what's the point? I may as well just do what Jack, Jim and Harry are doing, nothing, and still get the same thing, you know? It was a very frustrating time. So I've given you a little bit of background and a bit of context as to what my life looked like previously. Let's call it mundane. Yeah, it was quite mundane, it was quite chilled. I got to a stage where my life was shaken up a little bit, for the better. It wasn't bad at all. It was honestly the best thing that could ever happen to me, and I'm still incredibly grateful for it now. A few life changes for me. I moved, I was starting to think about family in the future, and now where I've spoken about pressure and pressure I've put on myself and expectations on me, this is now rocketed, right? What was being revealed during this time and space was that I didn't really have much confidence in myself. I didn't really believe in myself much at all. You know, a lot of the things that I was able to do already incredibly well, I started to doubt. Imagine a simple task, I'm thinking, can I do that? I've gone to go and try and I've failed. I'm thinking, wow, this is crazy. Certain behaviors are being mirrored back at me from various people around me. I'm seeing how defensive I am. I'm seeing how much I'm not listening much at this moment in time. You know, I'm just solely focused on proving my worth to people around me. it was such a reflective time, and I almost couldn't believe what was happening. I couldn't believe it was me. I was in disbelief, quite literally. It got to a point where I was just like, can I even change what I currently am? One, I didn't know I was this way at all. It was never revealed to me before. I didn't know I even had it in me. But this version of me that was surfacing, I hated it, quite simply. I really hated it, and I really wanted to change it. And I felt like I was doing everything I could to change this version of me. I was just like, what are you doing here? You're ruining everything, you know? So again, another layer of pressure. So where I was already thinking, okay, I'm not sure what I'm doing right now, I don't know how to get to where I want to go, now I'm even a different person, and I don't know how to get rid of it. It meant, honestly, everything to me to change, to become someone else, to become someone worthy. It was like my whole life depended on it. But think of a game, right? And you know, there's certain games now whereby you can make a decision and then it will alter your whole trajectory of the storyline. Do you know games where there's like multiple endings, for example? So if you go down one particular line, like you do, let's say, one particular quest, now you're locked into that storyline. This is what it felt like. I was like, to me, if I'm not able to change now, my whole trajectory of my life is going to go in a direction I do not want to go. Again, another layer of pressure that I'm adding to myself. And long story short, it went in the direction that I didn't want it to go. What had been revealed, I wanted to run as far away from it as possible, and I wanted to prove to everyone around me that I am not this person. Like this little segment of my life, these small decisions that I've made, these words that I've said, these actions that have happened do not define me. That was the mindset I was in. I was like, this is not me. But at the same time, in me saying that, I didn't really believe it, because I didn't know how to get out of that or change it. I was just like, I tried, but it's not working. I was just like, why is it not working? It was so frustrating. I can't fully explain to you the level of frustration that I was feeling at that time. You know, I was in a zone of almost like depression as well. Like my days were literally gloomy. If I was to think of a color, it's gray. You know, skies were gray all the time. So during this time as well, what my days actually looked like, I was literally working pretty much every day. So I'm working, you know, 40 hours, it's 5 days a week. I'm working at a gym. Obviously that is my predominant industry. In between these times where I'd go home, you know, again, it's good meals. I'm training straight after work. I am listening to podcasts. I'm reading books. You know, I even said to myself, no more music, podcasts only. I'm sure everyone's probably been through that phase, but yeah, cutting out all music, podcasts only. I'm learning as I'm traveling to and from work. I'm learning while I'm sleeping. I'm learning while I'm eating. I'm filling up every minute of my day where possible to develop myself further. I ended up also thinking about going into project management as well. I actually did my Prince 2 foundation course. Literally every single minute of every day, I tried my best to devote it to developing myself and changing this person I was trying to desperately run away from. But during this time, while I'm putting in all of my hard effort and using my discipline to its utmost, there was no change still. Life was still going in that same trajectory. Think of it like, again, in a game, I'm still getting the cutscenes. I can't change the cutscene, like the cutscene's already pre-made. So it's still going in that trajectory, and I felt, obviously there's always a choice, right? There's always ways to kind of like change. I'm not trying to say that, but it felt like I was locked into this storyline. Like I just couldn't get out. I'm just watching life unfold, and I'm just like, I'm trying my best, and it's still just going in this direction. I was struggling against this river upstream, and it's still just sweeping me along, probably even faster, to be honest. So it felt like everything that I did ended up in failure anyway. And this is where I started to notice that me putting in more effort doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna feel better from it either. You know, there's still, again, something missing. While this is all happening, I'm still trying my absolute best to just change who I am, so to speak, and prove myself otherwise. You know, I'm trying to find other ways now, because clearly this isn't working. It's still going in a direction I didn't want it to go in terms of like life. I'm not getting the results that I truly wanted. So I'm like, okay, something is amiss, something's wrong. Something else needs to change. The main thing that hadn't really changed was just the fact that I still thought of myself the same way. You know, my belief in myself was at an all-time low. I didn't really trust myself to do much. So I'm trying to claw back my trust at this point. You know, it's still going to be an ongoing battle as well for a little while. But I didn't understand how important that self-belief was. And what I thought of myself, life literally just mirrored back to me. So if I felt grey, then I would get grey back. It's as simple as that. And if I relate it back to Newton's third law of motion, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So how I felt internally is what I would put out and get back externally. There was a clear mirror here, and this is something that I started to notice. So no belief in myself and no confidence in myself meant a lack with anything that I tried, because there was so much fear instilled in me, like I was going to fail already. And if I felt like I was going to fail, then quite clearly I was going to fail. You can't try and do something expecting to fail. It just doesn't work. Try it. I dare you. I double dare you. But if you try something and you expect to succeed, you're way more likely to succeed. So I'm not even going to say it's a guarantee, by the way, but you're way more likely to fail if you think you're going to fail. And that is the state of mind that I had put myself in. I felt like I deserved everything that was coming to me because of how I saw myself. Everything that I tried was lacking something. It was always half-hearted. I never really pressed my foot down on that pedal and grabbed the wheel with two hands to control the direction that I was going on, you know, or at least give it a go. It was, I'm gonna try, it's gonna look good, but I'm not really gonna do much. You know, I'm not really gonna give it my all. I'm not really gonna put myself in it to let myself down because I know where this is gonna go, you know? Things that I noticed about myself during this time is that I wasn't really present, constantly stuck between yesterday and tomorrow, so past and future. I was never here in the now, in the moment where that actually matters the most, because here and now is where you make the change. Not yesterday, that's gone, and not tomorrow because you're not there yet. So you have now only. I didn't really listen because I was so busy trying to pick up on something. I'd get stuck on a point. If I'm speaking to you and you said something about myself potentially that's maybe a bit negative, or I'm worried about how I'm going to present myself to you, and I've kind of got hung up on one point, I'm now only thinking about that point. So anything you said after that point has now gone out of my head, or is just passed straight through, because I'm still stuck on that point. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say so I can appear to look good, so I can prove myself to you. And then I'd get also really defensive as well. So I would find any way to make sure that my point was valid, essentially. You know, it was a time where I wasn't very good with constructive criticism or any criticism at all. I would defend myself to the very end. It was a defense mechanism. It was a survival technique. And lastly, any problems that came up, I had zero ability to solve. It was just straight ruminate. Just think about it, overthink. I'd probably put myself in a box and I'd think of 1,000,001 different scenarios, which again, like 98% of things that we think of in our head don't actually happen, right? It's an assumption. I was making assumptions all over the place times 1,000,000. And then, because there were so many different scenarios that I thought about in such a short space of time, I would then paralyze myself, leaving me unable to even do anything about it. Or at least that's how I felt anyway. There's always something that you can do. So one question you might have had for me at the time is, how did I rationalize this behavior? It was that simply I felt like I deserved it. So anything that was happening, particularly that was negative, I'm like, cool, yeah, I deserve it. Simple as. There wasn't any one particular moment where I've decided, right, like something needs to change internally. It was a collection, it was a multitude of things, you know, it was being built up over time, and then eventually something could just burst. There was one particular day, it was New Year's Eve going into New Year's Day. I spent it alone, which isn't so bad, right? Like you can have New Year's alone, right? But I was ill, so that was the kicker for me. I was so ill, I had just finished work, I got back home and I was just ill, like I felt awful. So while everyone was probably celebrating this, how I'm building this up in my head, I'm like, nah. I might have just about made it to midnight to say a few happy New Year texts, right? I woke up the next day, New Year's Day, I felt awful. I had the whole day in bed. I didn't do a thing. I was just like, this can't be my life. Literally, this can't be my life. Like this is mental. I'm away, I'm in a different city to you know, to all of my friends and my family, and I'm ill, I'm stuck in bed on New Year's. I'm just like, what? Like, I'm laughing now, but you know, like what? Like this is mental. This can't run. As soon as I basically got a little bit better, I started to bring myself out into a more positive light again. I just had to have a fresh look on life. If you've known me, I've always been super positive, but this stage of my life, I'd felt the lowest lows I ever had. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's just, I didn't have the tools to process what I was feeling. I didn't understand them. It was all so brand new to me, and I'm being thrust into the depths of despair, not to sound so dramatic. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to deal with it, how to manage other people. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what boundaries that I needed to put up for people to help me, or even for me to help myself. I didn't know myself at the end of the day. So this is where things started to change. I started to look inwards. Instead of me pushing aside some of the problems and just accepting them and ruminating on them, if that makes sense. Instead of me just saying, right, yeah, I deserve this, let me not even do anything about it. Come on, man, I'm running from my problems, basically. I was running. And I even said that earlier, I was running away from this person. And the first thing that I had to do at this point was accept what had happened, how I'd seen myself, and that version of myself as well. You know, they have served me and I am still here. You know, they got me to where I am now. And that was step number one, accept myself. And that was where I could start building belief back and trust back. You can't build belief and trust and confidence in yourself if you don't accept who you actually are. All versions of you, by the way. We change as people over time and will constantly change. It is honestly such a beautiful thing, but at the very basis of it, for that foundation, you need to accept every version of you. You don't have to necessarily agree with them, because as you change, you require different things. But yeah, just remember, you are enough now, you were enough then, and you will be enough in the future. That will never change. So I've mentioned a lot of metaphysical things, but let's talk a bit more facts, a bit more physicality. I felt very drained most days. I had a constant hum of discontent. Like I wasn't happy with life at this moment in time. Like I didn't like where it was going, where I was, and I didn't like that I didn't know either. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I didn't know how to fix anything either. I didn't have a why to push me forward anymore. I didn't know what to do myself. I had a particular set of skills. It's just like, right, even if I wanted to pivot, I'm now gonna have to start again. And that in itself is super daunting. No why, no purpose. And particularly the no purpose part, it felt incredibly heavy. I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know what I was here to do, which is hard. It's a hard place to be. And when you don't believe in yourself either, you're just like, you're useless, but you're not useless. But that's how I felt. That's how you feel at the time. Me not being able to process my newfound emotions, I feel like I gained an increased emotional depth. So I've had the highest highs at those points. You know, I was feeling on top of the world, but vice versa, I also felt below the world on other days. And I knew how to deal with the highs, and I was clinging myself to them as well. Like I was like, okay, so I want this to be my new standard. This is where I want to be. But as soon as I dropped off again, it's just like, no, something feels wrong, something feels off. And if I dropped even further down, I'm like, yeah, something is horribly wrong here. I didn't have enough emotional intelligence to deal with my new emotional depth at the time. And that not only causes issues for yourself, but also people around you as well. If you don't know what you need in your high times and low times, in your neutral times, you can't put in place boundaries. It's incredibly difficult to articulate and communicate with people as well. It can be a very isolating time, and it's not something that I was aware of at all until, I guess, more recently, having gone through and learning more about myself. And it's just something that everyone has to do at some point. So whenever that point is for you, I mean, the earlier the better. I always say prevention is better than the cure. But sometimes we need that shock. Sometimes we need that fire to get it going. This for me was a canon event, I believe. If you know what that means, please put it down in the comments. I would love to know who my Marvel fans are. During this period, I did feel like my emotions, I blamed them quite heavily, and I didn't understand what was happening at the time either, but I was feeling things, frustrations, anger, depression, sadness, and I saw it as a weakness. And now, today, I see my emotions as a strength like no other, a form of clarity. The first thing to know about emotions is that they are fleeting. No emotion lasts forever. Once you know that, it loses its grip on you. So if you are feeling sad, then you can take solace in knowing that it will pass. And once you get to a certain level of emotional intelligence, maybe depth as well, you'll then be able to use your emotions to your advantage. So if you are feeling angry or discontent with something, great, it's energy. You can use that energy to build or create something. So when you've got a bit more control and understanding of your emotions, what causes these emotions as well, you start to put together a bit of a blueprint for how to live your life. There was no single moment where I stopped to think and face my truths and face the reflections and face the mirror that was being thrust upon me. There was no single moment where I was like, okay, I need to turn inward to solve this. Again, it was a culmination of things. It was through my diligence of learning just genuinely about myself, asking myself questions. It was through learning about the world. It was speaking to people. If you are vulnerable with someone, then they're most likely going to be vulnerable with you back. You form a sort of connection, which is honestly quite amazing, and it's something that you can't get without one surrendering to the other first. Someone needs to go first. Why not just let it be you, you know? Obviously, you don't need to spill out your deepest, darkest secrets, but that small little bit of personal information really opens up a lot, and you can learn so much from people. Everyone has a story, and wouldn't it be amazing to just hear everyone's story? There's a reason why that person at work is just feeling a bit off today and why they've snapped at you. Instead of snapping back, ask them when it's right, of course, but ask them like, what's going on? Like, do you need help with anything? You'll be surprised as to what you get. It's important to give everyone a bit of grace. Be open to share. You'll learn so much. The more you give, the more you get back. And another beautiful thing about being vulnerable as well is that once you are able to speak on certain things, you'll also then be able to let them go as well. So I've said a few times now that there was no single moments that caused me to act in a particular way. It was definitely over time, for months we're talking, but it was consistent effort. So consistency here is definitely the name of the game, like with anything in this world. If you want to get better at something, you have to be consistent. If you want that beach body, you have to be consistent. You can't just come to the gym or train with me for 12 weeks and then expect that's it. Through this constant effort over months of learning about myself, having conversations with people, learning about them, learning about the world in general, slowly but surely I was building. I was completing things. My first challenge was a 3-month transformation for myself physically. It was consistent effort whereby I started to see my intentions align with my action. I started to believe in myself more. My trust was building, my confidence was building. And as I believed in myself more, I started to generate more ideas again. I created Regime. Real belief is a creative force like no other. Most importantly, I stopped trying to prove myself to myself and to everyone else. I have nothing to prove. I just am. If there's one major truth that I'd want all of you to take away from this, if you don't know it already, that is that with any transformation that you want to undergo, you must start now and embody the change now, as if you'd already transformed to transform. You must do the things the transformed version of you does now, today, in order to make it happen. If you do not do the things that that person does, then you're never going to be able to close that gap between the two of you, between yourself now and them. This here will only be imaginary. It will only ever exist in your mind. In order for you to get to this point, from mind to reality, is to actually act and do. So you need both together. So you first need to visualize it and think it and believe it. And then you need to start doing the things to bring it out into this plane, so to speak, okay? In order to bring it into reality. So, as some of you might know, if you'd watched my intro video, you'd know that I used the Regime method in order to help me climb out of this pit. So you're probably wondering what actually came first in terms of the Regime methodology or framework. And that was actually just the physical side. So I'd put myself through a 3-month transformation. So it was 5 days a week in the gym for me personally. I had the time and I was thoroughly enjoying it. I was literally falling in love with training again and the space that it provided me. And I made it very intentional. I knew exactly what I was going for and why I was training. I was trained not just to build strength, but to remember who I am. So I used it as a form of remembrance. Every session that I did, every rep that I did, and I'd set an even more specific intention. Like, for example, with each rep, I will build resilience. With each rep, I will awaken power of some sort. So I would make every session that I did incredibly intentional. I knew exactly what I was doing and why I was doing it. So that was step number one for me. Step number two in terms of building regime was a systematic approach to introspection. I needed it to be consistent. It wasn't this every now and again I'd ask myself questions. No, it was every single day I would ask myself questions and I would journal. So I had it as part of a morning routine and an evening routine for myself. And I would basically be mapping out what gave me energy, what took it away. For me, that laid the foundation and I was able to build clarity in this way. Once I knew where I was then in the present, then I could start to be like, okay, cool, I want to change this, and then would start aligning my actions to change. As I just said before, you need to embody the change now in order to transform. It can't just be, okay, I'll start at some point. You start the process today. So whatever that looks like for you, take this as a sign, start that change. If you made it to the end of this video, I would like to just thank you. I really appreciate your time. If you find that this video has resonated, then please do subscribe, like, and share with someone else that you might think it might bring benefit to. With clarity from me, I'll see you next time, guys.